Welcome back, y'all. So, as I alluded to in the Noble exhaust video, as everybody knows, Cobb is shutting down, a lot of the functionality, with like flex fuel and whatnot. As it stands right now, I have about 9 days left. Last I looked on Access Tuner this morning, have about 9 days left to get the car tuned fully as I want it. Today, I'm going to be installing the Cobb 20G turbo, which has come in. Came in nice and ready. It did come with the gaskets, vacuum line, and some bolts. Also got in a Omni 4-bar map sensor I'm going to be putting in, just in case. I don't know how far I'm going to be able to push it in the mid-range as far as boost, so I don't want to eclipse that. It's just a what if it was cheap. Also have a PTP lava turbo blanket I'm going to be putting on the turbo, and I went ahead and got a Grim Speed coated heat shield for it, so I'm going to be running both. Just because, at least for right now, I'm going to be running the stock top mount, so I need to do as much as I can to keep heat off of it. Also today, I'm going to be installing the Group N transmission mount and the Group N motor mounts. So those came in. It's going to add a lot of time, but because I got to take the downpipe off anyway and some other things, I figured I might as well, while the car's halfway tore apart, all I got to do is unbolt the motor mounts and the transmission mounts and the cross member for the transmission, and then raise the motor up a little. So while it's also out for that, and I got the cross member out, I've been meaning to install this for a while. It's a Torque Solution solid joint for the shifter. I'm just trying to eliminate any slop I can from the shifter. So with that being said, some of the things I've already done, I've already drained the coolant. You can see the battery's out. This is not necessary. I could have just disconnected the negative terminal. However, it's been about 12,000 miles, actually almost 13, since I replaced the motor and started tuning it myself. So I went ahead and pulled that plug to check it out, on the front driver's side. And so in order to do that, I just took the battery out. Only took a couple extra minutes. So for draining the coolant, since I already did it, I'll walk it through it real quick in case you missed it in the previous video. Underneath here on the passenger side, there's a Phillips head screwdriver. There's a plug, drain plug there. And what I do, just about with anything I'm draining, is just to minimize leakage. I'll undo the plug, and then once I get the pan under it, then I uncap the radiator. In fact, before I uncap the overflow tank, nothing came out. So that's just, to avoid a big spill mess, you can do that. So some of the other things I got to do to make room, got to get the top mount off, which is the 2 bypass bolts, the worm clamp here, the worm clamp on the outlet of the turbo, got the 2 bracket bolts here, and then the bolt on the side of the driver's side of the intercooler, then the bolt on the passenger side, and then the top mount comes out. Once I get that out the way, I'm going to go ahead and loosen the pitch stop and get it off I'm going to disconnect it on one side. That'll free up play for the raising of the motor, and then I'll work on getting the downpipe off. But anyway, I'm going to put this on a time lapse while I get the top mount out, and that way this video doesn't turn into another, an hour-long video, hopefully. All right, so as you can see, I got the top mount out. The pitch stop is loose. It's just a 14 millimeter on this side and a 14 bolt and head, so you need two 14s, and that's loose. I did go ahead and disconnect my O2 sensor. In case anybody doesn't know, I'm running it behind on the downpipe instead to keep it out of pressure. So what I got to do next is get up under the car, get the bottom, the downpipe to catback connection undone, get the bolt, the support bolt out underneath, which I can go ahead and show y'all. So there's that bolt, the support bolt, and the it's 213s with that torque solution adapter. I also need to get the heat shield out of the way and get the rear O2 sensor unplugged, which is actually this one right here, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. I could probably, I don't think I can do this one-handed, especially that hand. No, I'm gonna, but get this unhooked. Actually, don't even need to undo the heat shield. I can just pull the downpipe as it is. Then once I get up under there, let me feed this through. I'll get the bolts for the downpipe on the turbo, get it out the way, and then I'll move on to further things. I'll probably go ahead and get the turbo out, because once I get to that point, it's only the 3 more bolts and the oil feed coolant stuff. I may have to move the coolant reservoir out of the way, but I may go ahead and get the turbo out, then do the motor mounts, just for simplicity's sake. But anyway, I'll be back. I'm not going to film me under the car, so that's kind of pointless. If you want to see that, I've done it, I've showed it before. So anyway, I'll be back once I get the downpipe off. Well, one as simple as I thought. I remembered. If I had more time, I would have just taken the intake manifold off. This kind of was a lot bigger pain than it needed to be because I didn't. But the turbo's out. As you can see, some of the things I had to get off. So I had to disconnect the tube to the turbo inlet. I had to pull off the power steering pump to get out the way so I could finagle this further out. Also had to disconnect some extra lines for the oil separator and whatnot. I'm all bloody. It's whatever. But here you go. There's the 20G compared to the stock turbo. Not much of a size difference, honestly. I mean, the housing is a little bit bigger. The exhaust housing is a little bit bigger, but that's okay. So I'm gonna get the feed line swapped over, start getting this put in there. And until then, I will be back. All right, so I got the transmission cross member out. It's just, sorry, it's you got the 2 nuts for the transmission mount. Those are 14s. There's 4 14 millimeter bolts for the back part of the cross member, and then the front 2 are 17 millimeter bolts. Once you get it out, it's just 4 on the back, front and back of each side to get the mount out, which you can see this thing is garbage. I'm gonna get that out, and then also I'm gonna work on getting that joint out. So I gotta drop the shift arm, or the front mount, disconnect the reverse lock out, and I should be able to get to that knuckle. Once I do, I'll let you know what all it took to get it out. I'll be back. Okay, so the transmission mount is out, and I've got it right next to the group N, right here. So, try to angle this so you can see. I can physically move this without much effort. It wobbles around. It's garbage. The group N feels much sturdier than rubber, so I mean, everybody's already said that. This is nothing new. Anyway, I'm going to get the transmission mount in, then I will work on the motor mounts, and I will be back. Okay, so little update. I did not end up doing the motor mounts. I could not jack the motor high enough to get the rear bolts for the brackets that sit behind the cross member. So I just ended up doing just the transmission mount. Also, you can't do the knuckle. I thought I'd be able to get it out without pulling the shifter, but it looks like you have to pull the shifter to do it. So I'm gonna wait on that. Just to get it out the way. You know, you got to hit those roll pins to get them out. Because it's getting late and I need to get this car back on the road, I'm gonna wait on that. We'll come back to that at a later date along with the motor mounts. I'll probably have to do a whole tear down of the whole thing to do all that, which sucks, but it's whatever. Or I might just drop the front cross member. That'll probably be what I end up doing, and just take it in and get an alignment after. Anyway, so next up, I got to get the downpipe back in, and that's pretty simple. It's just the 514s on the turbo, the bracket holding it, and the downpipe to catback connection. It's not real big deal. I know I'm not really showing a lot of what I'm doing, mainly because I need to get this done so that I can get the car out on the road to start tuning it. But anyway, I'll get you updated and show you what it looks like when I get closer. All right, y'all, so it's back together. I've already got the coolant filled up to the radiator, so that's that. These, I was just trying to remember which adapter I needed for this. So, word of learning, the 20G comes with spacers for the top mount because it does sit a lot higher. As you can see, it kind of is tilted. I couldn't get the spacer on this side. It's not that big a deal. But the big problem I had was it was so tight in here with the oil separator and everything that I just barely got the clamp on the hose. You know, I barely got the hose on all the way on the turbo and the clamp on there. It's tight. So, anyway, so next, got to load up my base map that I've built. We will do that together. I know there's a million videos out there on how to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Gaming, chatting, sharing, and everything you love for less.
There we go. So we'll go to tune, change ECU map, ECU reflash. I'm at 20G 2 and 1. Continue. And yeah, sorry guys, I didn't film as much as I meant to. I forgot to put it on a time lapse on some of the stuff. So as you can see, this is what happens when you load your tune. Nothing that's just what it does. It's going through. Once it gets to 100%, it'll ask to cycle the power, you know, and do some other stuff, and then it'll go through another thing, and yeah. More or less, once this is done, gotta do neutral, by the way. Turn the ignition off, press continue. This part's even faster. Press the ignition back on. Okay, ignition off. So, said to wait 15 seconds. I'm counting in my head. You'll notice when you start it, it takes an extra bit to crank over on the first, after loading a fresh tune. Kind of concerned me at first, but it's not a big deal. It's just the first time after loading a new tune that it does it. And you'll see what I mean here in just a second. I'm gonna start this thing up and start burping the coolant here in a bit. Checking for leaks also. So here we go. I got that at AutoZone, I think, and it was like $40, I think, if I remember. But that has just been a lifesaver. I don't know how I never saw that before. So right now, I'm just gonna check for leaks. Oh, there's a bolt. I dropped this bolt. It was an extra one that came with the heat shield, which I did not end up putting the heat shield on. That's another thing I didn't get to. I didn't get the motor mounts done. I didn't get that joint, that coupler joint done, and I didn't put the heat shield on. The heat shield, I really need to get all the brackets off around the turbo, which I didn't do today, like the top to hang the top mount and all that. You really need to get that stuff out the way to put that heat shield on there. And plus with the air oil separator, those hoses are just all in the way. So I'm just gonna run with the turbo blanket for now. It's better than what I had because I wasn't running anything since I rebuilt the motor. Roll the windows down. Well, hold on a second. Passenger side window doesn't want to work. That's interesting. Works on this side. Okay. So, gotta let this thing warm up. And while I'm doing that, I'm gonna crank the heat on all the way. Got it on high, full blast. I can tell you that with the transmission mount alone, it already feels stiffer on the shifter, so that I like that. But for right now, I'm just letting it warm up. I'm gonna check for leaks. And anyway, that'll be, this is going to be just, it's going to take probably 30 minutes or so for this thing to warm up and fully cycle, you know, let it run. So that's kind of a boring thing. I'm just watching it and checking for leaks periodically. So once it's done, I'll let you know if it was a success or not, and I'll be back. All right, y'all. She's got all burped and everything. It took about 30 minutes, like I said, to get it going. A little tip: give it some blips on the throttle once it's up to temp. It just getting more water flow and whatnot. It wouldn't get hot for me until I did that. You might be able to get it done quicker if you actually do that once it gets up to temp. I just let it sit and idle for a while. So no leaks or anything. Don't mind that. That is all. The big puddle is from the AC, the condenser drain, or not the condenser, the accumulator drain. And then that small spot is where it just came out when I took the funnel out. It was up above the rim, so a little bit there, but no leaks coming from anywhere else in the motor. Good thing, because I didn't want to have to tear this thing apart again. Plus, I kind of need to drive it. Anyway, so the base map's loaded. It's a little late in the day to go out driving it. I'll probably wait till tomorrow to do that. I'm gonna take my son back at some point tomorrow, so I'll get some good drive time in tomorrow with it. Just seeing where I go, or seeing where it ends up. I've got it set to, I think I've got it set to be about 20 PSI across the board. So, you know, if nothing else, it may not pick up any torque on 93, but it should pick up plenty of top end power, which is where the stock turbo falls off, as we all know. So if so, that's great. I'm not really tuning 93 aggressively. I'll make sure it's not knocking on the spark for 20 PSI. I won't even try to push it past that. Once it's dialed in for 20, then I'm gonna, you know, I'll play with it as long as I've got a tank of 93 in it. But as soon as I need fuel, I'm switching back over to E85, because I really want to see where this thing will go on E85. I'm thinking 25 PSI around there. I'm probably going to run out of injector because I'm, you know, just running the stock fuel lines and whatnot with the Cobb regulator, the stumble kit, and then 1050X injectors. So I'll probably run out of fuel around 430 wheel, I imagine. I'll probably have to taper the boost off down to like 22 or so at, you know, towards red line. But what I plan to do, because it's not that complicated to raise fuel pressure in the tune, is if I get it dialed in, I'll probably do a maxing out the injectors pull and save that, but then with what that boost and spark is, but then, you know, set the fuel pressure to, like, you know, 4 bar, so that, you know, I can have that tune ready, so it, you know, that I can go and change out the fuel lines and the fuel pressure regulator to run a 4 bar setup, which is 58 PSI versus the stock 43. That'll give me plenty of injector to get me up around that 450 wheel, hopefully. We'll see. I got to play with it and see where it ends up. I mean, I'm still on the stock exhaust manifold. I don't plan on changing that, because I just do not like the way the cars sound without it. If it limits me on power, it limits me on power. Not really planning on changing anything else. My plan is eventually upgrade the fuel lines and the fuel pressure regulator to up the fuel pressure to give me more headway. And if I can't do it with that, then this is just where the car is going to be, because I don't want to give up flex fuel. I travel too much. I'm also going to go ahead and once I get to 93 set up, I will pull 3 degrees out. That's pretty liberal with the timing, but I'll pull 3 degrees out, just call that my 91 tune. So I've got that with whatever setups I do. So I'll probably have like a, wherever I end up, how I'm going to drive it as it is set up, and then for 93 and flex fuel, and then also 91 version. And then I will probably do a, like a 58 psi fuel pressure setup with pushing the turbo a little bit harder up top on 93 and 91. And that'll probably be where she ends up. The only other things I might do is add a switch top mounts to like a Grim Speed or a ETS with the intake manifolds or the intake temp sensor from iWire. I'm not going to run speed density because I won't be able to tune it. But if I set up a tune for that, where it really isn't a big change. I just got to change the calibration of the intake temperature sensor and have a couple tunes for that. So you can hold like 10 tunes in a Cobb. I can have like my combinations to where if I do that, I should be good to go. Because really, as long as I'm not maxing out the MAF, I'm going to really work on dialing the MAF curve in the next week. And also, as long as I'm not maxing out my fuel pressure, it really shouldn't, or my injector duty cycle shouldn't change a whole lot. Anyway, I'm just rambling on right now. This is going to conclude it for now. I'll probably do another video about what, with the results with the setup, where I end up on 93 and whatnot. I also have one data log. I only have one of just the downpipe that I can compare with my previous data logs. Yeah, not the different days and all that, weather, but the road will be the same. As I'll make the data logs I do will all be from the same stretch of road, so that'll be constant. The weather might not be, but it's close enough. I think that for sure the downpipe did gain me some, because I gained, like I said, 2 to 3 psi of boost in the mid range. So I should have picked up quite a bit of torque from that. But anyway, I'm just rambling. I'm sorry. This is going to wrap it up, I promise. On the next video will probably be like I said, the results that I got from this and what I think about the setup. So until next time, talk to y'all later.